Right, we're just waiting for more people to arrive, but we are streaming on Facebook. Just wanted to let you all know. Right, I think we're just gonna wait a couple more minutes and then we'll start.
What do you think, Tara? Should we go ahead and get started since
Yes.
it's
Yeah, we should
4:06?
We should start.
Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the October CAG meeting. I hope everyone is doing well. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to DDC. Take it away, please.
Great, thank you. Hold on, let me open my video. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Paula and Tara. Let me share my screen here. All right. Okay, I think you see everything's okay. Okay, perfect. Okay, great. Thank you, Tara and Paula, and thank you, CAG team, for being able to pivot and meet with us on the new date that we have here. We wanted to make sure we were able to provide the construction approach presentation, and that first date of the CAG, we would not have been able to do so. So again, thank you so much for being able to switch dates to accommodate, this presentation, because we felt it was really important, again, for you to, view it as soon as possible. So thank you for that. Again, my name is Desiree Gazzo. I'm here with HNTB Lero, the project management consultant, construction management team for the ESCR project. I'm joined here this evening by some of my colleagues, and then our colleagues at DDC and some of our other city team partners. So today we will do a quick overview of the contracts and construction phase updates. We'll do a quick overview of the August air quality update. We just have a few Section 3 MWBE resources we wanted to share tonight. Again, a quick what we've heard, and then really the bulk of this presentation will be the PA1 construction start and approach. So we'll do questions in after those first couple of bullets, just to see if there are any, and then we'll move, hopefully quickly move on to that. We will be back again on November 4th, which is in essentially 2 weeks-ish. So I will say, we're going to present, I think some of you have seen the presentation from CB3. As we've been, communicating, this is the, when we get to the construction start and approach, this is the preliminary, kind of this overview of the approach. The details are still being worked out. So we will answer questions tonight. And then we will also be back in about 2 weeks to answer more questions. And if you want to submit questions to be answered, then, and again, hopefully we'll have more details for you then as well. So anyway, with that being said, I will begin, and let's see, overview of contracts. Our project area overview slide, as always. Okay, so for project area 1, and we will get into this more in the kind of back end of the presentation, but essentially the notice to proceed was issued to the contractor August 16th. The tennis courts, ball fields, amphitheater, barbecue areas, parks will be able to permit those through November. The compost area is being restored into a passive lawn area, I think, which many folks are aware of. And that is happening now with DSNY kind of relocating Lower East Side Ecology Center and kind of clearing out the area. And then the restoration will move forward from kind of mid October to mid-November. And then, as we'll talk about in the upcoming slides, there'll be some park closures beginning November 1st. For project area 2, we are in construction in the first phase, and that's Astor Levy Playground, Stuyvesant Cove Park North of 20th Street, and the Solar One area. I think everybody's pretty familiar with that work. We have a quick next slide where we'll go over that work. And then parallel conveyance procurement is ongoing for that contract. So again, very quickly for project area 2, we are moving along with the pile installation and flood wall construction, starting from Asser Levy Playground and then into this kind of first phase here of Stuyvesant Cove Park. In the Solar One area, we have almost 500 linear feet of wall installed right now. If you subscribe to the bulletin, the weekly bulletin on Fridays, we've been trying to put a new picture up every couple of weeks of the wall. So it's coming along. So that area is progressing. Again, there's some pile installation in the East 23rd intersection along the West Service Road. And then Con Ed is doing a bit of work at Avenue C and East 20th Street, which will continue for a little bit here. And then the newest work in project area 2, if any of you use the exit here, there's kind of a lane shift or a little traffic pattern shift modification here for some sewer work that is being done in that area along the ramp there. So if folks have been using the FDR in that area, you will notice that. For air quality monitoring, the August update, and again, this is for project area 2. So the PM daily value, the particulate matter daily value, did not surpass the PEL for a 24-hour time-weighted average. I know that's been what folks have been asking to see in the revised or in the new quarterly monitoring report. So we will make sure that we include that in there. So it did not surpass the 24-hour time-weighted average for the month of August. There were a few small instances. Again, they were only about 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes in duration. And that was for the dates listed here on the slide. And then 2 of them were outside of construction hours. Again, so very, minor occurrences. And again, the dust control measures were implemented and then the readings went below again. So again, construction activity is being very closely monitored, and that shows, from the numbers that are here, and the dust mitigation techniques are continuously implemented. And again, we'll be releasing the quarterly within the next month or so. For Section 3 MWBE, we are very excited. We've been working with our partners at the mayor's office, with Workforce One, and they've finally been able to start some of their training programs. So many of the training programs that these organizations have been or historically have been on hold because of COVID, and now they're starting to reopen again. So we've sent out these flyers in the weekly kind of bulletin and advisory, the weekly project notice, but we did want to put the links here. Again, this presentation will be posted, and then you could click on all the areas that are blue here, or you can go to the Work With Us website, or the Work With Us page on our website, and all of this information is listed there. So again, there are a few opportunities with Workforce One, and then there's this construction skills program. And again, this is in partnership with the unions. And as we've presented before, union labor is such a big part of the ESCR project. So we are really excited that
need to hold it that long. Maybe.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. So we are really excited that these opportunities are now opening up. So again, if you have any questions, there is a contact us button on the Work With Us page. So you can click there and ask any questions that you have, but there is a lot of information. So please pass this along. Our community construction liaison will be in the field also in the coming weeks and is trying to have these flyers, some of these flyers printed and on her as well, in case people are interested in this information. And if you would like to have printed flyers distributed, at your building, or if you need copies, again, please reach out and we would be more than happy to drop some off. What we've heard. So I think the last CAG meeting, we talked quite a bit about parallel conveyance, and we said that we were going to come back with potentially more information on parallel conveyance. We received questions, we have them, we are working on them. The project area 1 construction approach has kind of taken some priority at the moment. So we will kind of defer. We have a little bit of time for parallel conveyance, so we will defer those conversations a meeting or two so we could focus on the project area 1 construction approach. So we do know that that is still on the table and something that we want to talk about more, and we will definitely do that. However, we think that, again, the project area 1 construction approach is the priority at this moment. And as mentioned, we are up for the next air quality quarterly report and that fact sheet as well that has been requested. So please, understand that these things are still, we still have notes to go over them again, but we're not going to cover that in this presentation. Again, we're going to focus on the project area 1 construction approach. So we will pause before we get into that and take any questions that anyone has on what we just spoke about.
Oops. Michael, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Regarding the Ecology Center and their move, I know that that is occurring because they're right next to us, and we've been getting a lot of phone calls asking to store some things for them. But my question is, and I don't know if there's anything that you can help with regarding this, they've seemed to hit a wall with a request to move their drop off. So the Lower East Side community has become very used to having at least compost drop off, place to drop off their food scraps. Mm-hmm. So they asked the Parks Department if they can at least move their drop off facilities into Corlears Hook Park, and we agreed to let them do that. But nobody from Parks or the city or DSNY is getting back to them with any permission to do that. So we would really, if you can, help us advocate for them having a drop-off location in the neighborhood still, even though their compost road is moving.
Sure. I don't, are any of our city team partners on here that would want to speak to that, or we could just take that question back? Michael, thank you for that. And we could certainly follow up with them. I'm not sure who's on the call right now.
Hey, Desiree, this is Melissa from Parks. I think we will have to take that back. I wasn't aware of that request, and I'm the only Parks rep on the call. I think I saw Ben from DSNY, but we'll have to. So is the issue that it was requested directly to Parks?
It was requested directly to Parks, I believe, to Steve Simon and to Jamil Phillips and Mark Baccaro.
And what was the request?
To have a drop-off location for food scraps put into Corlears Hook Park so that people can at least continue to drop off their scraps. And I see Christine has her hand up too, so she probably wants to talk on the same issue.
Thank you for the clarification.
Go ahead, Christine.
Sorry, yeah, hi, Michael. Thanks for bringing that up. And yes, we have a request into Parks and have not gotten a response. And we also reached out to Nancy Ortiz from FLADEC. So the location where we want to locate this drop-off is along Corlears Hook Park, along Cherry Street, just by Jackson, because obviously the eastern part of Cherry Street will also be affected by construction sooner or later. And we just want to have like a drop off like we have in other parts of this neighborhood that are also on Parks property. And unfortunately, we haven't heard yet, but yeah, it would be great if parks could maybe respond to that with a little bit more urgency, so that we can also let people know about this shift, because we don't want to close down our location without telling people where to go next and what days they can find us and so on. So it would be good for planning purposes to just really get a conversation going on that. Thanks.
Thanks, Christine. I'll take that back to Parks.
Any other questions? Going
Good.
once, going twice?
Okay, I will continue. Thank you. Oh, and just, sorry, we had a few parallel conveyance. There was a question at the last CAG meeting about additional resources or presentations. So I did include the links here for you in case you need them. And I think we also sent them along, Paula, right after the other CAG meeting. Okay, so project area 1 construction approach. So for this portion, there is kind of a smaller agenda here. So we'll go over just a general overview, then we'll move into the approach. We have some resources for interim recreation. We'll just briefly, there's a slide about the stages of construction in general. And then we have some resources that we would like to, again, just remind people of for during construction. So building durable protection for New York City, that is the goal of the ESCR project. That is what it has been from the start. And we are still moving forward with that goal in mind. The key objectives were and are to bring flood protection online as quickly as possible, keep public access of at least 42% of the park throughout construction, and then mitigate park closures by providing interim recreation options throughout the neighborhood, and that we're doing with Parks Department. The construction priorities, maintain public and worker safety during construction, and then I think this is an important part here, ensure the constructability and logical sequencing of work. So there were, again, what we had called the phasing plans that were presented earlier on in the project. And that was always kind of, they were presented with the knowledge that when the contractor came on board, there was the possibility of there being a shift in what that, phasing looked like, because the contractor, all of the contractors, have different experience, and they have, the building knowledge, they build. So that is, looking at that, the constructability and logical sequencing of work to get the project completed on time, get the flood protection online as quickly as possible. So in the next couple of slides, once we get to the approach, you'll see the deepest excavation will be happening first in the tennis court location to help improve the upland drainage. The carbon fiber wrapping work of the Con Edison transmission lines, which was not originally part of the contract, but which now is, which we are, grateful that Con Edison is taking the time now to upgrade and protect their lines so that in the future they don't have to, ruin, excavate, dig up, come back into our newly restored park and then do that work. So, this is what we want. We want all of the work to be done at once so that it is not an inconvenience in the future. So that work has now been incorporated into this contract. And then having the contiguous stretches of work under construction to allow for soil settlement instead of breaking up the park in kind of smaller areas. You'll see, again, when we get into the approach, if you have not already seen it already from the CB3 meeting, that it's kind of taking more or less half of the park and then the other half of the park. Construction and park use. As I had mentioned earlier, the leagues will be able to use the ball fields throughout the end of their season in November, barbecue areas and amphitheater through November. The tennis courts will remain open through the 2021 permit season. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in the coming slides. As we had already mentioned, the compost area is being relocated to convert that area into an open space. And then the construction completion will be by the end of 2026, given the project pause during COVID and then some procurement delays. So getting into the construction approach, the slide here is blank, but we want to preface it by saying these are what we will show are snapshots in time of the areas of under construction or closed areas throughout the park. This could change, month by month. It may look a little different as we are transitioning from one summer to the other. The slides focus on the summers. So we're going to show you kind of the later part of this year. And then the slides will go summer 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. The park will look different in between summers. So again, this is a snapshot in time of what park closures will look like. There will be sub phases and et cetera, and we will communicate those with you monthly through advisories, through the bulletins, through site signage, et cetera. So starting with this, where we are now, so kind of mid-October through November of 2021. Again, the fields will remain open through November. 4 tennis courts will remain open until November 21st. The 8 tennis courts closest to the bridge, those will start closures on November 1st. We do have some advisories which we'll be sending out either later tonight or tomorrow to make the community aware of kind of what we're presenting tonight, which will include the start of work, the tennis court closures, and the compost area. That deep sewer excavation will begin in the tennis court area. Then the shared use path will be fully closed to the public by November 21st. It will be available for the Parks Department and emergency vehicle access. However, by November 21st, the shared use path will be closed. We'll have more information on exactly what the closures will look like either potentially before the next CAG meeting. And if not, we could talk about that more at the next CAG meeting. But again, we are in coordination with DOT on all of the reroutes and access changes, et cetera. And then just so you are aware, again, the orange areas are the closures, and then the white areas here show where folks will be able to access the park. So except for the Delancey Street Bridge, all other access points will be open through November 21st. Then November 21st through the end of the year, end of this year, the southern portion, well, at this point, the compost area will be open as the new passive lawn space. Though the southern portion will start with the fencing and will be kind of closed off. There will still be, again, as promised, we always have access to the ferry, and there will be access to the open space through the Corliers Hook Bridge area here. So this area, this path will be open again for access to the ferry and the newly restored open space here. Then the southern portion will close, and then the northern portion of the park will be open. So the southern ball fields will be permitted until November 30th still. So they will be open until that permitting time ends. And then the northern fields, comfort stations, etc., will remain open through the end of the year. So for those of you who were at the CB3 meeting, these first two slides were the changes that we wanted to present tonight, which is why we didn't post the presentation last week. Let's see, moving on, the summer 2022. So again, for summer 2022, the closures are still relatively the same. Pier 42 deck should be completed at this time. Again, that's a Parks EDC project, but that is offering additional recreational amenities while ESCR is under construction. So that will be open as well as the open space there. And then the only new closure would be in Reach J to the north. And then also kind of in the southern area, a temporary pedestrian bridge will be constructed. This is not the location. The location is still under, being reviewed and is to be determined. This is just a placeholder that it will happen in this southern area down here. So the Corlears Hook Bridge will be closed, and the Delancey Street Bridge will be closed. We'll have the temporary bridge here, and then the 3 northern entrances will be open. Summer 2023, the new universally accessible Corlears Hook Bridge will be complete, and the first portion of the newly rebuilt park will be complete and opened as well. So that'll have a few ball fields down here at the south open, which will allow for some of the northern ball fields to close. I know there was a request at the CB3 meeting to perhaps show the open and closures of amenities on these slides. So we are looking into that as a possible option, but we did not have time from then till now to incorporate that into the presentation. And then also opening would be the Pier 42 Upland Park. And again, that's another Parks and EDC project. So at this point, summer 2023, there'll be a substantial amount of the southern portion of the park will be open, and then we'll see more of the northern portion of the park closed. And then summer of 2024, we'll have the tennis court area will be open just north of the bridge. The universally accessible Delancey Street Bridge will be complete, so that entrance will be there. The temporary bridge will be removed, and the southern portion of the Esplanade will be open. So now the work would primarily shift to the northern portion of the park, and the 3 northern entrances would be closed. And then construction of that coastal flood protection will begin in reaches G through J. The only portion under construction in the south is the passive lawn space, which will be reconstructed into its final configuration in that area, and then a small area just over here. The shared use path will remain closed throughout the construction. It is the contractor's primary kind of movement throughout the site. So it will be the construction road throughout construction. And it is very unsafe to have that open to pedestrians and bicyclists while all the heavy machinery is moving back and forth. So, that is the primary reason for closing the shared use path. Summer 2025 looks very similar to 24. This is when the new, again, construction the park begins in the north. At this point in time, the 10th Street Bridge replacement is ongoing, and the fill settlement measures are in place, and the monitoring of that fill settlement is ongoing. And then summer 2026, the public access via East Houston Street opens up, as well as the access via 10th Street. And then there's only a small portion closed at this point to complete kind of surface surface amenities, etc. But by summer 2026, the park is at this point almost ready to open. Settlement operations are completed. And then in late 2026, we'll see the project completion. So that is the construction approach for project area 1. For pedestrian access, as we had just reviewed earlier, the white arrows in these slides show the access areas. Again, the bicycle detours, pedestrian detours will be coordinated with DOT and Parks Department. We have regular calls with both groups to communicate, again, how the park will close, how there will be access, so that way we can be able to respond to it, again, from all agencies' perspectives. And then, as mentioned, the shared use path greenway will be open to Parks Department and emergency vehicles 24 hours a day. So for interim recreation, we have provided the park's neighborhood recreational resources webpage here. That's this link here. Parks also gave a pretty thorough interim recreation presentation. So we have a link to the ESCR website where that presentation can be found here. So there's also a link right on the home page of the ESCR website. So if you're familiar with that website, if you just scroll down to the bottom of the homepage, there's also a link to the neighborhood recreational resources webpage there. Stages of construction. So about a year ago, this time when we were just starting project area 2, we gave a very lengthy and thorough presentation on the different stages of construction. We have boiled that down into one slide to just, again, talk briefly about an overview of the steps of the kind of beginnings of construction. So the notice to proceed was granted in August 16th. There has been some early site reconnaissance. As you know, there was some field discovery. They were surveying of existing conditions, etc. And then where we're moving into now is the mobilization and site preparation. And that is when we will start beginning to see temporary construction fencing, installation of environmental monitoring, site clearing and preparation. So these are the activities that we'll start to see on site. Construction activities. So once we mobilize and do some site prep, then the construction activities we will move into our removals, utility relocations, and then grading activities. Again, the utility relocations are usually the first steps that happen. So that is, we can provide the link to the much lengthier presentation. We could certainly do that, and you can go back and take a look at that. We're almost done. There's just 2 slides here for resources during construction. As many of you are aware, Joyce Sin is our community construction liaison. She can be reached through the inquiry tool. She also has a project email, and she has a mobile phone. The inquiry tool, there are several of us that review the inquiry tool. Again, sometimes we can't send back a response right away. We try our hardest to. Some responses need agency review before we can turn them around. So we do thank you for your patience as we respond to them. When we can respond right away, we certainly do. But there is, again, several of us using the inquiry tool, and that is the preferred method. However, Joyce also does have an email and a mobile number if you need to get in touch with her kind of immediately. For ESCR resources, again, our website is here. That includes a link on the homepage to the New York City DOT street closures and the Parks Neighborhood recreational resources. The inquiry tool this is kind of a snapshot of one of the pages, but there's tabs up here and the contact button. if you go there, the inquiry tool is there. And you could also sign up for weekly construction bulletins, advisories, and the newsletters. There's a community engagement page, and under community events, there is the link to the Community Board 3 and Community Board 6 web pages. And then we list the upcoming CAG meetings here at the bottom with a link to view the past presentations as well. So that is all there. There is a CCL page as well. But again, our Joyce is for Project Area 1 and Nadine is for Project Area 2. If you call Nadine, she will just give you Joyce's number. So if you have a question about Project Area 1, please reach out again to Joyce or to the inquiry tool, and then we'll all be able to jump in and answer. And then we will be having site signage for Project Area 1, and you should be seeing that up by the end of the week. Again, around the tennis court areas, the compost area, and then the general advisory for the work beginning will be posted throughout the park. So we will be out in the field posting those sometime this week. So that is where we are with the construction approach. And I see many hands. So Paula, I'm gonna let you, I hope you know who raised their hand first.
I put in the chat. We'll start with Frank, then Wendy, Michael, Trevor, and then Robin. I'm just again going off what's on my screen.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Desiree. How you doing? Just two different questions for you. Two different streams. The first one is, if you know offhand, if you can reiterate, I'm sure it's been discussed before, but I don't remember. What are the times for construction, and what are the times also regarding Pier 42, if you know? And do you want me to answer the second question, or do you want to answer first?
So just quick question, the time of day that they'll be
Yeah,
working?
yeah, exactly. The times for the construction work that'll be done in Project Area 1.
Sure. So I will confirm, but for Project Area 2, it's generally like 7:30 to 3 or something, 7 to 3, 7:30 to 3, 7 to 3:30. Okay. Somewhere. So I would imagine typically those are the normal work hours. And then in the bulletin that we send out, if there are if there are work hours that are kind of outside of those hours, we usually send an advisory making folks aware of work being done kind of outside of typical hours. So I haven't been in a specific conversation about the specific work hours, but I would imagine it's similar to PA2.
And do you happen to know, and again, I may have to ask this to someone else, but for Pier 42, would you expect that to be similar? Although I know construction has already begun.
So Desiree, I could jump in. Hi, Frank, it's Ophelia.
Hey, Ophelia.
Hey, so for Pier 42, NYCEDC, they have a community construction liaison. His name is Rick Forgety.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know. Yeah.
So he'll be able to
mentioned it-
provide the timeline and
Okay.
stuff. Yeah,
That's
but
fine. I'll be
as Desiree
patient.
said, yeah, as
I'm
Desiree
sorry, I
said,
keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
it's okay. As Desiree said, it's typical for construction activities to take place from 7 to 3:30. They start early to finish up early. And do you have Rick's email? Just to make sure.
Yeah, no, we've been in correspondence before, and there was a few incidences a few weeks ago where there was nighttime construction. It was very loud, and I documented it, and I hadn't heard any follow-up. So again, I'm patient. I repeated it many times, but I thought maybe if some folks here would know, maybe I can get the answer that way.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because it caught me by surprise, but that's fine. I'll reroute back to Rick and see if he can respond. And then very quickly, Desiree, so this is a design question, but it has to do with the fact that originally, the park was all going to be closed, and then the community had asked for park phasing. And the way it looks now, and I don't know, but my concern is that there will not be barbecue pits open for quite some time. And my concern is for my friends and neighbors, specifically in the NYCHA housing all the way up from Houston North. Do you know, can you, if you have the working knowledge right now, otherwise you don't have to spend time on it, but just wondering if you know from the design perspective where they're going to be and how they fit into this phasing?
Sure, Frank, I'd have to get back to you on that one, which I could definitely do. I don't have that specific information right now.
Okay, thanks.
Desiree, I believe some of that was accounted for in the parks interim rec, but we could also look into that. Relocating some of the barbecue pits to other nearby parks, but yeah, again, we'll get back on specifics.
Mhm.
All right, thank you. Thank you both.
All right, Wendy?
You're on mute, Wendy, just.
Sorry about that. I want to ask some questions about the Con Ed line since it's new. When was the decision made to rewrap the Con Ed lines? This was one of the major reasons for rejecting some of the alternative plans. Why weren't these negotiations disclosed?
Sure, so I don't have specifics on the Con Ed line, so we can get back to you with more specifics. However, the earlier discussions about the Con Ed lines and what would have to happen to them to protect them in some of the earlier designs is different than just the kind of protection or upgrades that they're doing now. So it's a much different scale of work that would have had to be done from the earlier iterations of the plan to now. For more specifics, I would have to get back to you unless, Jeff, you have more to say about them.
No, I mean, as you mentioned, Desiree, the difference is the earlier plan would have required the building of tunnels that a person could walk through to access the lines. This is a separate operation that's, you know, it is labor intensive, but it's not nothing compared to what was previously envisioned.
Well, okay. How much time is this work going to add to the proposed original timeline? And also, who's paying for the additional work and how much is it? Is this part of the 1.45?
I know Con Ed is paying some portion of it. I don't know the exact number. The overall plan is the timeline has stayed the same of 5 years. So we're starting a little later, as you know, based on pandemic and various other reasons, but we're finishing within the same amount of time that we previously discussed.
And do you know how much the overall cost is?
Of the carbon wrapping, I don't know. We can add that to the list of things to get back to you on.
I'd appreciate it. And one other question, I did not notice anywhere in the plan where the compost yard will be returned to.
It's in the general same vicinity as it is right now.
Because it's not shown on the drawings that, I mean, on the images that you had, right? Or did I miss that?
I believe it's there. I can.
It's shown as a restored area. None of the amenities are specifically called out in the rendering.
But that's where you're going to be replacing it. And it's going to be about the same size. Is that correct? About an acre?
Yes, that was outlined in the letter from the deputy mayor to the Lower East Side Ecology Center about their return once the project is complete. And sanitation will be assisting with that process.
You know, thank you. You know, you mentioned that 42% of the park will remain open. Are you talking specifically PA2 when you say 42%?
No,
I'd asked that last month.
we're talking about Project Area 1, East River Park.
No, that's, oh yes, PA1, sorry. So it's 42% of PA1. Thank you.
Michael?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I understand the challenges that come with this project of this scale, and I know that there was a lot of discussion in the past about the phasing of the park and what's going to be open and what's not going to be open. But I also seem to recall that what we didn't want was one half to be closed while one half was open, and then the other half to be open while one half was closed. And that seems to be what we're getting now. And I understand that there's challenges and logistical nightmares for having construction going on right next to areas that are open. But I'm sure that we're going to hear a lot of feedback from the community about how unhappy they are that it's the whole southern half is closed and then the whole northern half is closed. But my specific question is, I didn't see in any of the closures listed on your maps, when is the work happening? I know you mentioned the Corlears Hook Bridge. Is that also then when the gatehouse is being installed? When is the gatehouse being installed in Corlears Hook Park? And when is Corlears Hook Park work happening? Because part of this does affect Corlears Hook Park as well.
The gatehouse, Michael, is part of the parallel conveyance project. It's not part of the project area 1 East River Park project. So that will come, and we'll be certain to work very closely with you once we have those details.
Thank you. So then, and then the flagpole area, I'm assuming that will happen when the bridge gets put in because it's related to the bridge.
Desiree, I'm not familiar. Maybe we can flag that one.
I think we can get back to you on that part, just to confirm.
Thank you.
Trevor?
All right, thank you. I'm just going to ask individual questions because I don't want to stack too many of them. But the barging, and I'm assuming that this is still part of the project. I know things have changed, especially noting Michael's concern with half and half of the park. But are we still looking at barging most of the equipment? I see that the bike and pedestrian path will be closed, but there's an awful lot of trucks that would have to come into that small pathway if we don't have barging. So has the contractor mentioned that as a part of his approach?
Yeah, thank you, Trevor. So we are still speaking to the contractor about the approach for the materials, etc. So we will have to get back to you. It is definitely still in coordination, etc. But I don't have any more details, specific details on that right now.
Okay, and can you go to the slide that showed any closure or the southern closure? Yeah, that's fine. I noticed that at some point the Pier 42 deck will be open and also the restored area for space. My concern is southern access from the southern part of the park because I know that walkway is going to be closed and the deck opens next summer, and I really don't see a way to get there unless folks are going to have to walk all the way up past the park itself and then go to wherever the temporary bridge may be. And I know it's off the slide, but I'm assuming it's going to be access from the southern portion to Pier 42.
Yes, so the access, the detours and the access maps are what we are, now refining and looking at, etc. So that will be provided in later presentations, how all of the access and pedestrian reroutes, etc., will happen with the closures of the shared use path and the esplanade throughout the construction.
Right, so just if we can get some more information on southern access would be extremely helpful because there's no bridges or sort of ways to get there. Obviously the bike and pedestrian paths will be closed, which I can tell means that the traffic of bikes is going to go up Clinton Street and to a certain extent Allen or Pike. If DOT is on the line, I really want them to make a priority of fixing the bike lanes on Allen Street because it's a heavily used area. Those bike lanes have been flooded for years and nothing has been done. So if now we're going to send everyone off this path into other areas, we're building bike lanes throughout the city, but we can't keep the ones that have been built here in this particular neighborhood open and free. So if we could make that a priority, that'd be helpful. Frank had mentioned about barbecue pits, and I know in one of the presentations for Pier 42, there was some talk about adding barbecue pits there. We haven't heard anything from that. And Ophelia, I know you may not have the answer now, but if you could get back to us on whether barbecue pits are indeed included at the Pier 42 deck.
Yeah, Trevor, I know Melissa's on. Melissa, do you have the answer to that question, or we can get back to Trevor on that?
think, hi Desiree, hi everyone. I think we'll have to get back on that. I know that alternative barbecue sites have been identified throughout the project, but I don't have that information ready for this call.
Thank you, because I think one of the solutions is to add it to that particular location.
Oh, I see, for the Pier 42 deck site.
Yes.
Yes, so there is a concern with putting barbecue there. There's lots of athletic fields right in that area, and to
Mhm.
have the smoke from the barbecue drifting into those areas. And the scope for that project is completed, and moving forward with construction anticipated to start this year. EDC is not on the line. I'm afraid I don't have the exact construction start date in front of me at the moment, but I can get back to you about other locations for barbecue in the area near East River Park.
Okay,
Can
thank
I,
you.
Trevor, can I say something on the barbecue pits on Pier 42?
Mhm.
First of all, on our side, we really did not ask for barbecue pits, especially in that particular location, because you have Basketball City, you have the traffic from the pier, you have the fishing people, you have the park for the seniors, you have the fields for sports and athletics, you have the walkways. I think that's just like too congested to continuously add things in that area. It's not that big of a space. So I think that the barbecue pits can be moved more north because of that area. That area's got a lot of congestion. And I'm sure you agree with me, especially in the summertime when you've got party boats, tour boats, private yachts, all sorts of things going on there. You know, it's going to create over congestion of people and pedestrians, and then you have to consider the smoke as well.
Nancy, I actually don't disagree, having my own experience at Pier 35 and 36. I was just trying to find out if they were going to put them in or if there's alternative locations. And hopefully by the next meeting, we can get some alternative locations which are north of this particular area, since a lot of them are going to be closed.
Yes, thank you. I just needed to make that clear, only because it's so overly congested as it is.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank
Robin?
you.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm in my car. Thank you. After having seen this a second time, I do have a couple of questions. One is the Con Ed work that's happening. My understanding that it's now switching the closures, right? So the southern end is now being closed first versus the northern end. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
So is this has this information, or is there a plan to disseminate this information to the community? Because in every other meeting before this, the plan, when we were meeting in person, obviously during COVID, we haven't been having in-person community board meetings, but is there a way you're going to let the community at large know that this change is happening?
Sure. So we have the weekly notification emails that we send out. Right now, our list is over 2,500 people. So we have been requesting that the community, does sign up for the email, the mass emails that we send out every week. The site signage will have links to the website, which will have more information on, again, these presentations, etc. We do speak with tenant associations and other groups as requested. I know a lot of folks take the information that we present here and then kind of speak with people in their communities and in their buildings. And again, our CCL is a great conduit for questions or disseminating information in person. So I know not everyone can attend meetings virtual or have access to the website. We will still continue to be on site. We were doing, again, the tenting in the park. So that is something that we will continue to do to spread the word of the construction. But as areas close, we will post those advisories and construction bulletins on site as well.
Well, there's still so many people in the community, in the neighborhood, who don't know this park is closing, and it's really frustrating. And I would urge the city to take some of its money for this budget, your marketing money, whatever you're doing, and do some kind of a zip code specific mass mailing, trilingual, so everyone who's down here knows that this is happening. So that's this. People still do not know this is happening. They're clueless. Numbers of people. So I urge the city to do that. You know, think about like, I know it's, the city doesn't pay for postage, right? So you could even do a mass mailing. So that's one thing. The second thing is I want to reiterate what Michael said as I'm looking at your closures. Yes, really now, the entire southern end of the park which is basically, from Houston to Delancey is going to be off limits. And that was originally right in sections. So that's disturbing to see that. So the only access point, I guess, is at Houston Street. And can you please tell me again when these temporary walk bridges are going in at Delancey I guess, and Corliers? I'm unclear about that.
Sorry, so the only temporary bridge is, there's only one pedestrian bridge going up, and it will be near the Corliers Hook Bridge, somewhere in the southern area of the park. Down here. So when the Corliers Hook Bridge is closed and when the Delancey Street Bridge is closed, there will be one temporary bridge here, which will provide access to the passive lawn space and the ferry the ferry area here. So there won't be any temporary bridges in kind of the closed section of the park because you wouldn't need access to them.
And I'm assuming it's an ADA accessible bridge, obviously. So I guess I wasn't clear. It took me all this time to realize that the entire bike and pedestrian walkway is going to be closed. I'm not so sure. I don't understand why that has to be closed to the entire length. If sections of the park are open, why sections that are open of the walkway, why sections of the park that are going to be open, why sections of the walkway can't be open?
Sure. So there still is construction happening in areas of the shared use path, even though there's sections of the park that are closing. And then, so for summer 22, for example, while there is work down here in the park, the shared use path, there will also be work up here where the Con Edison work will be. So that is why the full, that's why the full shared use path would be closed. When you move further into construction, the shared use path, this is the access point, the in to the shared use path is down at Montgomery Street. And that is why the full length does need to be closed, because that is the in and out of the shared use path.
Okay, and then speaking of that, I know DOT's on this Zoom. I live on Grant Street. We have an incredible amount of car traffic on Grant Street leading to the Williamsburg Bridge. There are fewer and fewer parking spaces. It's really a traffic nightmare in this neighborhood. And I'm concerned that, at 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning, the construction workers are all going to be driving in here and trucks are all going to be driving in here. And I really want that to be addressed and taken care of. As it stands now, there's a standstill of traffic. There are bottlenecks probably beginning at 5 o'clock in the afternoon till 8 o'clock at night, and again sometimes till midnight, and sometimes again from 7 in the morning till 11 in the morning. It's basically a nonstop traffic congestion on Grand Street. And the last thing I want to say is as far as your signage, again, I'm urging you to please put up signage, not just along the park, but as far west as, Essex Street. I mean, really, Avenue A or whatever, Avenue B, like really where people are out and about walking so that they don't start heading to the park and be surprised that they can't, cross into it. So thanks again for letting me speak on all these comments. Thank you.
No, thank you, Robin.
Dove?
Hi, first I want to say I have to agree with Robin, especially regarding the parking on Grand Street and the area being a parking lot. And if the construction trucks are coming here, I'm worried about it being a staging area, how it's going to affect the air and especially the parking. These people should not be parking in our area. I hope they find a different area, and I would love to hear feedback back from you where you expect these people to be parking and staging these vehicles. Regarding, I'm from East River Housing, which is the properties on Grand Street and at the FDR Drive there, the co-ops there. And we've met with basically everyone multiple times. The last meeting really was in February of 2020 regarding the Delancey Street Bridge replacement, because it's going to affect our property. And we're one of the few properties, if not the only private property that is affected during this construction. And we were told it was going to take 20 months to replace the bridge. We haven't really heard back at all, except for one phone call about a month ago, which was like a 10-minute cursory call. So I'm a bit surprised to see the slide saying it's going to be about 30 months for that bridge work. And I really hope that, want to know, will someone be reaching out to our club and following up regarding the work you're going to be doing on our property?
Sure. Ophelia or Jeff, did you have anything to say to that? I will say that just generally, these maps, again, they do not illustrate necessarily specific timeframes. You know, this is an example of a summer, and again, so, you know, this is a guide for the closures.
It's the first guide I've seen, because it wasn't posted on Friday, so I didn't even have time to review it.
Yes, understood. But Jeff, I didn't know if you had anything more on the.
Yeah, Ophelia and I were just, I know we have been in touch regularly with East River Housing Corp. There's a lot of discussion about the parking lot.
There has not been much conversation. I can tell you from being on the board, we've had like 1 or 2 phone calls, and they were cursory. We used to have meetings that were happening. And I said that the last one was on February 19th, 2020.
We can certainly, I think, I'll defer to my colleagues, but we can certainly circle back with you very shortly and provide an update.
That would be great.
Okay.
Are we planning on, how is the bridge being made? Is it being made on site, or is it being brought in, you know, completed, and then sort of like how the Willis Avenue Bridge is, and just, you know, popped on?
Yeah,
You know?
usually they fabricate off site, but we can double check, and they, you know, they bring it in, and they would, and you know, they would install it carefully without, you know, they're not going to build a whole new bridge that's temporary. So.
Okay, and I'm assuming we'll hear back about the traffic and the parking and where they're going to be staging these workers, as far as how it's going to affect the street parking and stuff like that.
Yes, I mean, they'll be staging in the park primarily.
No, but the workers, they're going to be driving
Where
and parking on
where
the
they're
park.
parking. Yes, we will see what can be done to accommodate that, to limit the impact on street parking.
Okay, thank you.
Christine, then Diane.
Thank you. Yeah, I have 4 different sort of questions. The first one is actually about the service road. I'm just trying to even understand how you provide public access up north and have the service road closed at the same time. I'm just trying to visualize that. Are you going to have people stationed there to watch out for conflicts between park users and construction vehicles, or yeah, how would that work?
Sure. So I think most all, if not all, are the access goes over the shared use path. So the shared use path will be fenced off on both sides, and then the access will be directly into the park and not in the shared use path. That will be where the construction is, will be closed off to pedestrians.
Well, Houston, East 6th Street and 10th Street delivers you on basically on the service road. You know, especially 6th Street, you need to cross the service road to actually enter the park. Yeah, I don't know whether maybe this is still something you need to figure out those details. And then my next question is really about, you know, I totally understand that this service road is sort of your artery to bring materials in and out of the park. As much as I would love to see barging, I don't know really how realistic that is, but that is just my personal opinion. But my question here is that from what I understand, the flood wall that is being installed starting from Montgomery, leading almost to the amphitheater, is along the FDR Drive. And when will that work actually be underway?
So that work will be done when the southern portion of the work is underway.
So that could happen this next spring?
From between when the work is beginning until I'm sorry, I don't have the exact, time frame of when specific portions will be done, or, how exactly the work will fall. But sometime between, when the southern part of the park is closed, which is upcoming, into or past summer 2022.
Yeah, because I mean, you're going to drive piles and do a whole bunch of things also overnight. So, I just think it might be good to start really sharing with the community what's coming and when. And then I have a question about the fireboat house. In one of the slides, I think it's summer 23, it looks like it's already at least in an open section again. And I'm just wondering about the scope of the work that's being done here in the fireboat house. I totally understand that ESCR is putting in this I'm going to say passive recreation. I'm sorry. I guess compost is on my mind, but it's allowing for water to come into the fireboat house and leave again, and then also to shore up the pilings underneath the fireboat house and moving the mechanical services. Beyond that, we have really identified so much more work that needs to happen to the fireboat house. And I'm just trying to understand what the plans are. And also just again, call on Parks Department and DDC to really engage with the Ecology Center since we're leaving this building now by soon, end of November. And we want to really come back to a building that's totally functioning, that doesn't have water penetrating on the second floor whenever we have rain that's driven by a northeasterner, and so on and so forth. I could, talk about that probably for some time. I don't want to waste anybody's time here. I just want to really call out that there is a lot more work and needs in this building, and what we expect, and I think what the community rightfully expects, is a environmental education building that really lives up to that promise of a park that is also supposed to be resilient and sustainable. And lastly, the compost yard. It looks like, I'm still disappointed. It looks like a lawn in your drawings, even in summer of 2026. It's that green dot that's sort of a placeholder, but it would be nice to really see also in these presentations that this will not be a lawn, but a compost yard again. And here again, I'm happy to hear that.
I'm recording. I'm fucking recording. Fuck this shit. Shit.
And I'm happy to hear that you're also coordinating with the Department of Sanitation. But again, I want to really call out that it's really, we need to be in these conversations about how this space should be designed, because we are in the end the ones who are going to use it and make it a resource for the community. Thanks.
Thank you, Christine. Sorry, Paula, who was next?
It's Diane. Diane, and then
That's right,
we're done with, I think after Diane, we should stop with the questions, only because we need to move. I'm not sure if you have any remaining slides, Desiree, but we also still have to move over to the CAG portion. So we'll end with Diane's questions. Any additional questions we will address offline, since we'll be meeting again in 2 weeks. But we really want to get to the second part of the meeting. As far as any transcriptions, for those who aren't aware, we do post the recordings of the meeting online. So I'm not enabling any transcriptions, but you can view the meetings later. We'll post them up generally within a day. So yeah, Diane.
Hi, Desiree. I want to talk about Reach J at the northern end of the park. And if you can't answer these questions right now, then, you know, we can talk about it next time you're here. But I'm curious about why Reach J is going to be under construction, even though most of the rest of the north end of the park will be open. So why is that happening in that first phase? And then how does that connect to the Captain Patrick J. Brown Walk? And when is that going to be closed? Because we have a lot of cyclists, runners, pedestrians, et cetera, who come down from the north through the walk, through the pinch point and into East River Park. And so I am trying to understand, you know, what the closures will be like up there and how long that work will be going on.
Yeah, that's a great question. And we are, again, you know, coordinating with DOT right now on what the detours, especially for pedestrians. There is a larger bike detour route that was originally kind of put into the design drawings and the plans. And that was, again, originally through First and Second Avenue, up, you know, up across First and Second Avenue to connect with the Project Area 2 detour, which is on First and Second Avenue, again, for the bicyclists I'm speaking to. And that was again, going to have to be reviewed to see where Project Area 2 was at that point, and where Project Area 1 was at that point, to see where the Project Area 1, you know, detour would then connect either back down to Project Area 2 in Stuyvesant Cove Park, or whether it would make sense to continue on the Project Area 2 bike detour of First and Second Avenue. So for bicyclists, again, continued coordination with DOT, you know, to look at where we are now with Project Area 1 at the start of Project Area, no, sorry, with Project Area 2, now that Project Area 1 is beginning to make that work. And then with pedestrians, correct, once the shared use path is closed, the pinch point will also be closed, so that you will only be able to, you know, there won't be that connection. So as far as pedestrian rerouting is concerned, again, that's something that we are coordinating with DOT at this point.
Yeah, thank you. And I would just encourage you and DOT to pay a lot of attention to that pedestrian rerouting, because that's going to create a lot of extra foot traffic wherever it gets rerouted to. I think, you know, I've talked about this before. We have thousands of pedestrians in East River Park every day and coming through that space, the pinch point between the two parks. So it would be good to know how that's going to work. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Again, we will move over to the CAG only portion, just because we have quite a bit to discuss. And as we noted, they will be back in 2 weeks. So CAG members, we can compile all of your questions in the interim. We can talk about it when we transition over to the next portion of the meeting, how we can collect your questions, send them to DDC, so they can be prepared to respond to them in 2 weeks. Thank you all for being here, for those who are city agency reps and such, but we will be moving over to the member only portion. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if we can please take a 1-minute bio break, because I have to, so anyone else, please feel free to do so, stretch your legs, and let's reconvene in about 60 seconds. Thanks.
Tara, your mic is hot.
Okay, sorry, I'm just counting. I'm doing a bit of a roll call as I look at the screen, just in the interest of saving time. But I will be calling off the names of the CAG members that I do see, just to make sure I haven't missed anyone. As soon as we're back on after a short break.
Well, if it's okay, I'm going to declare the break over.
Okay, all right. So again, just in the interest of time, I'm just gonna again read off anyone on my screen. If I've not, only because previously I've asked that you put your names in the chat, and not all of you have done that. So I'm just reading off the members that I see. And if I did not call your name, please call out. Let me know that you are here. Datasha is here. Robin is here. Wendy is here. Trevor is here. Diane is here. Dove is here. Io is here. Frank is here. Michael is here. I said Robin. Christine is here. Nancy is here. And Martin is here. And Sam, yes, and Sam as well. If I did not call your name and you are a CAG member present, please unmute yourself. Let me know that you are here. Otherwise, I'm going to consider that the count. All right.
Okay. Well, let's get into the content then. Thank you, Tara, for doing that roll call. As promised, we are going to dive into the conversation about the draft bylaws. Hopefully, all or most of you have had a chance to review the draft that I've sent over a few times. Just for ease of finding it, I sent it again at the very beginning of the meeting via email to all of you in case you want to have that up for this conversation. But Tara and I thought it would be important, just as far as being efficient and strategic, if we started with some of the items that we think need the most sorting out. So let's do that. So the first item that we thought we should throw out there for conversation, because it's come up a few times over the months and then again recently, is this notion of when CAG members want to share information with their fellow CAG members. And we did, in the draft bylaws, we did have a section about that, but given some concern that has been raised, that Trevor raised recently, I made a few tweaks to the language. So I'm going to read out to you, and it's in the document. I have updated the document, but I only did that this afternoon. So I'm going to read to you the proposed language for this and open it up for conversation. So if a CAG member wants to send a solicitation or information about local events, personal agendas, or advocacy appeals to the rest of the CAG, the email must first be shared with Pratt Center, i.e. me and Tara, who will then determine if it is appropriate to share with the entire CAG. So I'll open it up for any thoughts or feedback.
Works for me.
Okay, yeah, does that adequately, capture the issue?
That works for me. I'm just hoping that those requests will be infrequent, because I just think where we've come to a point is that we're all getting emails for things that we didn't sign up for. I think that's problematic, especially when it's not even a BCC, it's just to everybody, and then a discussion could start. So that works for me, and I just hope that we can keep it at a minimum.
Can you tell me where in the document this is?
It's at the bottom of page 3.
Under communication.
Under communications.
Oh boy. I'm looking at it on the doc, and it's
On the
hard to
PDF.
tell what the pages are.
I apologize. It's not in the PDF. It is reflected in the Google Doc.
In the Google Doc.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you do a search for communications, that should take you to that line, that section.
Can you highlight it on your side and we can all
Yeah.
see it?
Sure.
Actually, I'll highlight the entire, there's another portion that we're going to discuss next. So I'll just.
You got it, Tara?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
It's in teal. So then additionally, there were some concerns around question submittal, and in trying to, again, make it more efficient to not clog everyone's inbox. I mean, we have to acknowledge the fact that all of you do represent different organizations. Obviously, not everyone will have questions that are all like, specific to a wider audience of the CAG. So in order to address that, we're proposing a different process for question submittal. So if a CAG member has a question for DDC or any participating city agencies, the questions are emailed only to the CAG facilitators, meaning myself and Paula. We will then record the question in our question log, which we will start recirculating regularly again. And then we will also submit the question to DDC. So we will then continue to follow up with DDC to ensure that the relevant agency provides the response. We will update the log to include that response. Of course, as again mentioned, this log will be made available for you all to look at regularly. You can look at it, review it. It should be reviewed regularly in the event that somebody does ask a question that's already been answered. Or if people want, I saw a question had been asked on such and such date, DDC responded, I have a follow-up. So we think it just in the interest of making sure that CAG members, again, you are within your rights to ask questions on behalf of your organizations, but they may not necessarily be widely important. For example, people like Tony's not here, but of course, I don't think questions around the ball field is relevant to every single member of the CAG. So to address those more specialized questions, we think that this process is better. Generally, the questions or concerns that the CAG members you all have are really addressed in the letters that you draft. So in order to address ones that are not CAG-wide specific, we think this process would be best. Happy to hear any feedback or comments that you may have to this. But again, this is just in the interest of trying to streamline. We know that there's a lot for everyone to have to follow up with, keep track of. This will allow people to get the questions, the answers that they need without everyone getting constant emails and feeling a little bit overwhelmed by the process.
Wendy?
I personally value seeing other people's questions. It helps me stay organized and on task. I'm not a ball player. I don't have a little leaguer in my household, but I'm interested. It affects my community and my well-being.
It'll be in the log, and you'll be able to see it in the log.
Where is the log?
We will recirculate the link to it again. That has kind of fallen off because of the way that, but also we've realized that the questions are getting a little bit out of hand in the sense of like people having a lot of questions that are coming into people's inboxes. We will be recirculating a link to the log for everyone to look at regularly.
And who makes this decision? Is it us or is it you?
This question, as far as the process, this is the CAG. This is up for the CAG to determine. This is part of the bylaws, which we, once we get a more final draft, you all will be voting on. But this is what we're proposing now. We wanted your thoughts.
Personally, I like the idea. I like the idea because it got a little crazy with people utilizing our emails to submit their own personal agendas. And that is not what the CAG emails were for. To take our emails without our permission to do promotions or whatever it is that you're doing that has nothing to do with the CAG is not acceptable. So again, I agree with Trevor. The email traffic was a bit redundant. It was a bit much, and it's very, very, very disturbing when you're trying to do work and your phone is constantly going bing, 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 because people want to send out information that was not asked for.
I agree as well. Being in the northern part of the project and CB6, I see all the concerns that the folks along East River Park have, but it in general has nothing to do with me and has little to do with the project in the Sky Cove Park area or the CB6 area. So I would prefer not to have all the information, and my email now is obviously stretched through many distribution lists down south, and I get all sorts of things which have nothing to do with me, nor do I care.
Trevor?
Yeah, as long as there's a log, I don't see why it's a problem. And I'm glad we're talking about bylaws because I think we got to this point because we didn't have a firm structure. And I think the log is going to be important because a lot of times people use questions to make a statement as opposed to actually asking a question. So I think if it goes to a log, if you want to see the questions, if you think you need to see everything, then there's an opportunity to do so. It doesn't restrict you from seeing questions that you might want to ask. So I'm going to definitely advocate for that because I've seen quite a lot and I don't want the CAG to get beyond the scope of what we started or what we thought this was going to be.
Thank you. Robin?
Robin?
Yeah, hi. I mean, I think that makes sense consolidating everything, but I do want to ask, how do we determine what would be considered CAG business or not CAG business? I keep hearing a lot of people saying people are advocating for their I can't think of the word, their causes. And, you know, if everything that has to do with East River Park, I think is why we're all here. So I'm not so sure what people mean by that. And if we're going to define that, do we as a group have to define what is the business that falls under CAG?
Well, as far as, so maybe, so there are two different things, right? The previous item we spoke about was this idea that if someone on the CAG wants to share information with their fellow CAG members, that of course is somehow related to ESCR, but not really about the CAG's business and the CAG's functions, then they need to send that email first to me and Tara and I will decide if that's appropriate to share with the rest of the CAG. But now, Rob, so now we're talking just about questions from CAG members that they want to submit and that they want the city to respond to. And that's where we think entering them into the log is a new approach that we'd like to take.
Yeah, and it still allows people to submit their questions instead of it just going to every member of the CAG. It just really goes directly to us. We'll be able to shepherd that question. I mean, it's still the same process. You guys email us, but you tend to email everyone. Instead of just emailing the entire CAG, you just email Paula and I. We forward those questions over to DDC, and when we meet with DDC, we do use that log to just make sure that any outstanding questions have been addressed. So instead of doing that, we'll continue to do that, but just make sure that the log is more readily available to you all.
Any other questions or comments about this new approach where we're going to try to centralize your questions into the log?
I think if it's a Google Doc, it might be easier because everyone can access it.
Yeah, it's like a Google sheet, but yes, we will.
Perfect.
What we did in the past is that we just created PDF versions of it to you all, but we'll just send you a direct link that you can view. So you won't have editing capabilities, but you will be able to view it. You can follow up with us on any questions. Yeah, you can just follow up with us if you see that a question had been asked and maybe you want more clarification, the response wasn't adequate enough, feel free to email Paula and myself, not the entire CAG, and we'll work on getting follow-up and things of that sort.
Okay, well, this is going faster than I thought it would. Oh, Aya, I see you have a question.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say on both issues, I'm good with log and also particularly non-CAG or, nuanced, opinions about the project and that sort of thing from organizations or any place. I don't want to get, I just wanted to ditto what everybody else has said so far. It's not okay. And it's a bit taking advantage of people who just want to spend their time doing what they signed up for. So thank you for coming up with good language for both issues, of which I support.
Okay, Frank, do you have a question? Or a comment?
No, I don't have a question. I just I have a statement, which is in regards to the question that was just asked, which is, and I know that we've discussed this before several times in the summer, which is the idea or the concept that it's really hard to process for me, speaking only, but to process information when I don't really understand the perspective and the vetting that comes with it. So I think it's a bit of a gaslighting question about how is air quality a personal agenda, because I don't really think that someone else's not-for-profit measuring air quality is something that I want to see used in the CAG, because I don't understand the vetting of it. I don't understand the kind of metrics that's being used, but there's an assumption that I'm supposed to buy into it, and I'm supposed to say yes, when I also know that the specificities to all of that there's an agenda to it. So I think it's really complicated, and I'd like to see us figure out how to have information sharing that isn't really because I do think it's agenda specific, and it really is problematic, because I take air quality very seriously. I don't think that anyone owns it, just like I don't think any one group owns their relationship to ecology or preservation. But for somehow there seems to be the continuous conversational mode from some people that, like, they have the knowledge and they have the facts, but if there's no context for understanding where that information is coming from, how it's designed, it's not really very useful. And that's where I would kind of balance that into the framework of, I just think it's taking advantage of the CAG dynamic.
Robin.
I would love to, maybe this is part of this conversation today, since we're talking about the bylaws, I would love to go through what it is we all signed up, what we all think we signed up to do. And what this CAG is going to be doing going forward, especially since they're starting to break ground now.
So you're looking for a stronger definition of what the purpose of the CAG is?
Well,
Page
yeah,
one.
Perhaps that has to change. Maybe there needs to be some evolution in it, because the parks, their plan keeps changing. So we can't be stagnant if are we reactive or are we proactive? And I just have to say, and this is a personal thing, I just have to say, having sitting in the Parks Committee and just being a citizen and resident of the neighborhood, the elephant in the room is nobody. A majority of the people in the city, in the community, do not like the design. That's it. And of course, we're never no one's talking about that now. We're just all going like, okay, and so yes, the goal of why it's happening, we all understand. We want to mitigate, flood control, but we've been through this so many years, and it just makes my stomach turn every time I hear these presentations by the one we had today. So either we're ignoring it and we're just pretending that there isn't concern about it, or we're just going to say, okay, when you're closing the park, let us know, please put up signs, or we're going to address the real elephant in the room. And if that's not what we're doing, then okay. It makes it hard to be on this committee. It makes it hard to be on any committee, to be quite honest, that's monitoring the building of the deconstruction and construction of East River Park.
Io, do you have something to say?
Can we get to the bylaws?
Yeah. I mean, because I do think, I mean, this design is complete. I know that people aren't happy. Unfortunately, I don't think, we are only able to work on what we're able to work on. That's really the purpose of everyone coming together on this. If there are other, items related to that people want to work on, that be separate outside of the CAG, but we do know that, like, the way it's in the bylaws and what the function of the CAG is. So yeah, I would, Martin, if you have anything, and then Wendy.
I think section 1 of the bylaws is fine. It's why the CAG was put together. And to correct the prior speaker, construction has been underway in the northern part for quite a while. While we also did try at one point about 2 years ago to get some design changes, it was more or less in concrete at the time. So that's not going to happen. And we should just go ahead doing what the CAG's purpose is.
Mhm. All right. Wendy?
Wendy?
So if you look at the last two sentences of the first paragraph, our statement of purpose, in collaboration with the project team, the CAG will make recommendations to problem solve the impacts that construction will have on the surrounding communities. The CAG also functions as a two-way vehicle for sharing information between the community at large and the project team. We heard tonight that there's still a lot of confusion in the community about what's going to happen in the park. Many people do not know about it. And also, it's a climate change project. And to me, public health and climate health should be part of our discussion and how we're communicating to the public. We're in a pandemic. People have become very much attached to having the fresh air and space in the park, but there's not really good mitigation for it. That is part of the reason that I think health belongs in this conversation. And it's in those two lines that we're supposed to make recommendations about impacts on the community and that we're supposed to be sharing information. We do not have a vehicle yet for sharing information from the CAG to the community. Is that correct?
We are working on that, but again, the information is really between what's happening on the project side and I know you want to, and there's information, again, you are entitled to collect information on air quality from Elias Breed. That's perfectly within your realm. How that, I'm getting a sense from other CAG members, this is not what they wish to utilize or sharing that information through the CAG channels. You're entitled to do that, but this is more for information related to the project from the project team, meaning the city, to the community at large.
You know, when I joined the CAG, there was a group trying to get air quality monitors in the park, which did not work out. We do have them. That's all I want to say. We're not going
I'm
to.
sorry, can we go back to it is 5:43 and this happens every single meeting where we don't get a discussion about the bylaw.
Sure, let's go
get the
back.
bylaws
There's
down.
plenty of comments in the doc besides this, but I just wanted to point those two things out. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. So I think we're ready to move on to the third and final idea that Tara and I had about stuff we wanted to run by you. And this is related to the protocol moving forward for having new members on the CAG. So I'm going to read what the proposal is. Bear with me for a moment as I try to find it. Okay. The CAG shall consist of no more than 35 members. We're at 30 right now. Each of whom is part of a community, housing, environmental, or other organization that represents people who are directly impacted by ESCR. If a new organization wants to join the CAG, they should reach out to me and Tara, and they must represent people who are directly impacted by ESCR. 66% of voting CAG members will have to affirmatively grant an applicant organization membership into the CAG.
I just don't like the way that you wrote it, but the essence is fine with me. I don't have a problem with it.
Will there be outreach?
I'm still
Sorry.
talking, Wendy. I would like to rephrase it, so I'll just do that.
Okay,
And then
yeah.
I'll put it in the chat and you'll see if you like it. I do want to say also though, I mean, because the bylaws can be changed pretty much, every, couple of meetings, if somebody has something that, is a burning issue for them, I don't want to delay voting, so, for bylaws, so that we actually have something that is guiding us, right? I don't think that these are the best bylaws, but, I think that they're a good start. I say that just to say, maybe not today, but I would like to, in the statement of purpose, include why we exist. So, and how we were appointed. I would really like to hear from other people, Paula and Tara, if we have time, how they feel about that. But I think that I would add something to the effect that, the Eastside Coastal Resiliency Community Advisory Group was established in whatever, the year, through however we define it, and initially appointed by, which would include the 2 city council members and Gail Brewer, something like that. It doesn't have to be all that specific, but I do think that every bylaw should include how and why someone came to exist, right? So that's not even burning, just something I wanted to point out.
Yeah. Fair and easy enough.
Yeah, I'll work on the other thing and put it in the chat in a minute and see if people like it or not.
Tara, the chat will be preserved, right? We'll be able to
I
go back.
will, you'll have to remind me, but I will save, yes. Frank and then Martin.
Maybe email that to me, Io,
I
if you
think-
can instead.
Okay.
Thanks.
I don't think I had my hand raised unless there's another Frank, but I do have to leave, as I mentioned
Okay.
earlier. I'm sorry.
I thought you did, I'm sorry. Martin?
Hi, Frank.
No, thank you all.
Since we're considering additional wordage, there should be a provision for how bylaws are to be revised.
I think that's
It's
in here.
there. It is
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
It basically says that, at any meeting, someone can propose an amendment, but that it to be discussed at the next meeting and to be approved at the next meeting, and that it requires 2/3 of the CAG, if I'm not
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
2/3 of the CAG for this to occur. So
Yeah.
2/3 of the CAG at the second meeting to say, yes, this is okay, let's, do this thing. And then 2/3 at the next meeting to vote in favor of approving it.
Yeah, we don't generally even have that number who attend. So I think we can revisit that language. Maybe we just agree to revisit the bylaws biannually or quarterly for any types of changes. And we can change the language around the process, because even if we do keep that in place, it's not likely that that's how it will happen. So we shouldn't set ourselves up for for failure.
Has there been any other organizations that have asked to join?
No, but there are questions as far as how other organizations can join. So we have not had somebody specifically say, I want to join, but we do know that there are questions as to how one can join if they do wish to join.
So certainly the group that is part of it have seen the 6 or 7 years of presentations that the project managers have been doing. And it was us who have been most interested in the situation.
Mhm.
So again, I couldn't foresee any other organization wanting to join this that has not already been part of it.
Wendy?
I'd very much appreciate it if there were outreach to Asian American and youth groups in our community. We have no Asian members. More than 30% of our community is Asian, and many, many park users are Asian American or and youth, but yet they're not at the table here. So in the interest of equity, I would really like to see at least those 4 spots that are currently empty be offered first to groups in our community from those that are not represented here, if we want this to really be a fair body.
Christine?
A representative body.
Yeah, I have a comment about the section news media, and we have discussed it before. I mean, we are now recording this, and this is a public meeting, and I just really think it's odd that we still have this paragraph in here to say that members cannot speak to the press about ESCR CAG meetings and activities.
Yeah, I think those guidelines we made those pretty early on. I still don't, I think the language is still, or at least this is still somewhat relevant in the sense that no one should be talking to the press on the CAGs on behalf of the CAG.
Yeah,
Meaning,
I don't have a
so we can
problem on
revise,
the,
yeah, so we can
on
look,
be-
we can.
yeah. I mean, nobody should talk on behalf of the CAG and say the CAG thinks this or that, but I think the rest of it should go.
Mhm. Yeah. And if there's additional feedback, I know we really wanted to highlight those 3 areas because we know that those were things that had kind of come up in questions from either other CAG members or the local electeds as far as the new members go. But I guess this is a good opportunity to open it up to any other additional comments that people might have for other parts of the bylaws.
May I?
Yes.
So now that I'm looking to write this, I'm not sure what to write because my feeling is that any new member should go through the same process that we all went through, which included, conversations with our city council persons and our borough president, who then appointed people. So I don't know. I just want to hear. I'm not going to change anything. I'm not going to send anything, but I would like to just know if anyone else thinks that people should apply, because that's really what they're doing. Should they meet the criteria through the Pratt Center? I mean, and is that something that you and Tara want to take on? Or if there be a process where, they're appointed as we were, in cooperation between the borough president and the city council person. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
I think something to consider that you all may want to consider is the fact that you all have been working on this for some time. You do know other stakeholders that are in the community.
I'm done. I got it. I'm
Yeah,
done. I got it.
No,
I got it. You're saying the same thing one of the previous speakers said. I'm done, and I'm not going to change it. I'm just going to leave it. I got you, and I hear you.
Yeah, I think you guys should decide for yourselves, but that's,
yeah.
And we certainly do not want to decide for you. So as far as who should be on the CAG or not. All right.
I don't recall applying for anything. I self-appointed myself, as part of Stuyvesant Cove Park, which was part of the construction area. I don't recall that there was any appointment process.
There was.
There was.
We didn't, Martin, we didn't apply, like there was no application or anything like that. But there was so much controversy going on about community input at the time, including with Stuy Cove, right? That the borough president and the city council persons got together and decided that there needed to be a community advisory group. And they also are the ones who made the recommendations about who should sit on it. Some people may have contacted them directly. Others, like yourself, they might have said, this is a person who's a stakeholder and needs to be involved. And, there were some people who, weren't interviewed, but there were conversations with. So it was a kind of soft appointment, I'm going to say, maybe, but it was, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there other areas of the bylaws that we didn't specifically call out that people have feedback on at the moment?
Yeah, it's Robin. I just wanted to, I'm looking at the ground rules for meeting ground rules, and I think it's important that we all read those again and take them to heart. I don't know if we need to change, but I'm not so sure they're being followed 100%.
Where are those, Robin?
Meeting ground rules, where it says, what page is that?
It's on
Page 5.
5. Only one person will speak at a time. No interruptions will take place, including cross-talking or side conversations.
Oh, I can't support that. I'm only kidding, everybody. I'm only kidding. Kind of. No, I agree. Okay,
no
Thank
one-
you, Robin.
no one will make personal attacks, and I think that's happening. And that this is supposed to be a safe place to speak freely, which I take to heart.
If that is intended towards my conversation with Wendy, many times she has been a little aggressive in her mannerism, whether it's on the meetings or in chat. I am simply responding what I feel, and I feel that what I am saying is not tactful, it's not retaliatory, nor is it insultive. It's simply responding to what she is saying.
You know, I want to say here, although I don't know specifically what anybody might be talking about, and I don't want to make any assumptions, but I do want to bring the issue of race into this, because, you know, as a Black woman, you know, the things that I say are taken often, and I'm not saying here necessarily, I just want to put it out there for people to think about, you know, to be intentional in their thinking about. If I were to say something, it is seen as an attack, as an angry Black woman, right? Or maybe it's not even an angry Black woman, it is an uppity Black woman, you know, meaning how dare she have an opinion, and how dare she have an opinion that's different than mine, right? But if a white person were to say the same thing, that person would not necessarily get the same reaction from people. So I think sometimes, you know, rather than thinking that somebody is attacking someone or being, you know, aggressive, that we should give people maybe the benefit of the doubt, and wonder whether or not there are some overt or covert racial, you know, how would I put this? I don't know what the word is that I want to use.
Prejudices?
Thank you. That's
Yeah,
exactly
truly.
it's exactly the word that I want to use.
Io,
Yeah.
I think I was just trying to say if it's
No, Robin, it wasn't directed towards you.
I know that. I was just trying to
Okay.
say, it says no one will make personal attacks. That means that in the chat, you don't out somebody that you're mad at or whatever in the chat. Then try to be more respectful or political in your responses. That's what it means, right? Because, you know, and you know, that's what it means. And it's for everyone. It's, you know.
Mm-hmm. All right, I am in total agreement. We should keep that, you know, foremost and upfront. So I know what is missing in the bylaws. Thank you very much. The word equity is missing in the bylaws. Remember when we started this discussion long before the CAG and in the beginning of the CAG, one of the things that we said that we would keep equity first and foremost, you know, in our mission as it relates to everything CAG. It's not in the bylaws. So let's see where we can put it in this 1.5 minutes we have left. Are we supposed to be voting on this today?
No.
Okay.
Why don't we share our, Tara, what we wanted to let you guys know for moving forward. So this is not your last chance to give feedback, but we want to establish a due date of November 1st for you guys to give any additional feedback. Remember, you can do that directly into the Google Doc. You can email me and Tara. You can call me and Tara and set up a time to chat to give us feedback verbally. So just want to reiterate, there are many methods in which you can share feedback with us. Then we will talk again about any additional feedback that we get between now and then. We'll talk about that at the November 4th meeting, 2 weeks from Thursday. And then the idea is to have a vote soon after the November 4th meeting. Is there anything I missed there, Tara, about next steps?
Nope.
Io, did you I doubt you figured out where we should put equity, but I'm happy to receive your suggestions after this meeting.
I mean, it should be in the mission statement. So I think it should go actually after, I just had it up. It should go after one of the chief responsibilities is to monitor the progress and implementation of the city's commitments as part of the ESCR project. Wait. Okay. In collaboration with the project team, the CAD will make recommendations to problem solve the impacts that construction will have on the surrounding communities with a focus on equity. So, I mean, that's just, first glance.
Okay.
Probably should say something more like equitable, blah, blah, blah. Right, Diane? Diane is the wordsmith.
Wendy, did you want to say something?
Yes, I don't know if the CAG can do anything about this, but I really feel anybody who's representing the city or a contractor or DDC should turn their camera on when they're at this meeting. I think it's discourteous not to. We all do it, and I would like for them to as well.
I do agree with you, Wendy. I'm not sure if I can have concern with them.
On the other hand, I
all have
understand,
cameras.
I understand Zoom fatigue too. So, I don't think it's meant to be discourteous. I do think that folks are just, sometimes we're just exhausted of being on Zoom all day. So we can ask as a courtesy for them to do so, but I would hope that you all not take that as a slight if people opt to not, because not all of you have your cameras on it. I'm totally not offended. If there's not anything else, we're 3 minutes over. We'll be seeing each other again in 2 weeks. We'll be sending a follow-up email as far as next steps regarding the bylaws and any outstanding questions that we didn't get to today that we would like DDC to respond to at our next meeting.
And before we adjourn, I have a plea. Remember the last meeting, the Lower East Side Preservation Initiative spoke to us, and only 8 of you have voted on the letter that was drafted to support their cause. So I will include another link to remind in the follow-up email to please remind you to vote on that.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Paula, because the tennis house is scheduled to close on November 21st, we learned today. So if there's going to be continued advocacy for saving that building, it's got to happen now.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
You too.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.